Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is Societal Narcissism. This video is sponsored by contribution from Dana. Before I get to the content, please go to the description box, click on the Rumble link. I ask everybody to watch over there as I'm still monetized, and it'll help out with the channel. So, this one's going to be fire because I was sent a click from Black Pigeon Speaks. I looked at the title and I actually did a little preparation because I kind of think I know where this is going. I do know Black Pigeon's channel. I've watched some of it, not a ton, but enough. I like him. I think he's pretty good. How Women Destroy Nations and Civilization. Okay, here we go.
If women's sexual preferences are liberated and go unchecked, they destroy civilizations.
Every time.
If women are allowed to choose, harems form. If women are allowed a voice in matters that pertain to the safety of a nation, then that nation will die, inevitably.
This is my 19th Amendment. This is my 19th Amendment argument.
It's as simple as that. Once you realize this, you understand the entire basis behind civilized society. And if not, you'll understand by the end of this video. As this is a complicated subject, let me state briefly what I'm talking about in this video so you can follow along more closely. Women do not, on an instinctual level, care very much about her tribe, nation, or civilization. It's in their nature not to. Women are biological creatures like all others, and they seek to maximize their chances of having viable offspring. This half-century-long experiment of women's liberation and political enfranchisement has ended in disaster for the West. And
that's what I've been trying to tell you. Women voting has been the biggest disaster for Western culture ever because they are trying to replace the traditional family with being a boss babe.
And the damage done to the West may be irreparable. And the only solution would be a return to a more patriarchal society, and this seems highly unlikely.
See, I don't think it's unlikely. It might be unlikely in the near future, but down the road, it'll happen. This continues for as long as men allow it to continue, because the only reason women even have the right to vote and the 19th Amendment was passed is because men allowed it. And I will use the same argument I made with white men and immigration and everything you're seeing, like using South Africa as a perfect example. You can only, because if you look at apartheid South Africa, you have to learn the lesson from it. It doesn't take a majority of white, and even in that, white Christian men to conquer and rule at will. It only ends when men says it does. And look, I have a lot of women on this channel who agree with me. Okay? This theory of mine it's not even my theory. It was first put into my head by Ann Coulter, who argues for it. Helen Andrews, whose story I read, whose article I read on the feminization, on the great feminization, anti-19th Amendment. But women, even traditional conservative women, will go against this, even though it's against their own interests. I have asked this of conservative traditional women who, think like me, vote like me, want the same things in general for a society as me, but are insistent on their right to vote. I asked them, what has voting gotten you? What has the right to vote gotten you politically and in your beliefs that the other women who vote against your interests haven't taken away from you? And they can never answer. Let me give you an example here that I pulled up, because I didn't want to just expose this person, because I do like her a lot, and she's a smart girl, and she's been through a lot. Rachel Alexander, who was involved before Trump in an Arizona political case, election case, where they disbarred her, and it was complete bullshit. Complete bullshit perpetuated on her due to this matriarchal society we're living in. You know, when I suggested the repeal of the 19th Amendment, she started freaking out. And I pulled up this chart for her. What if men and women, only men, women voted in the 2024 presidential election? Here's the chart for men. Here's the chart for women. And this is now do what it would be like if we banned all blacks from voting, since they vote predominantly Democrat, Hispanics too. Why not ban all minorities for voting for clown faces? She's calling me a clown. Or she's calling me. I'm not going to go through the whole thread. You know, it was like a month and a half ago, so it's not really, you know, I don't want to do that because I still like her and I never attacked her. I never attacked her here. But here was my point. Because of just going by the chart, because they're far less harmful than allowing women to vote. That's reality. Even with minority men voting, the GOP picks up Minnesota, Maine, New Hampshire, Colorado, New Mexico, and Delaware, Biden's home state. On top of that, all the swing states go deep red. So again, I ask you as a conservative woman, what have you gained by having all women vote? And she couldn't answer it. All she could do was call me a misogynist and a clown. She couldn't answer it. And this is a woman who argues the conservative point of view, the traditional point of view on everything. She's been completely screwed over by women in her own state who have infested the legal system, infested politics, infested the social medias. And it's like, well, I just pulling that lever or whatever it is, you know, filling in or mailing, like that's enough. Is it? Is it worth giving up this? Is it worth it? It's not about the minority voting. It's about the gender voting. You would still pick up Minnesota, Maine, New Hampshire, Colorado, New Mexico, and Delaware. And there are no more swing states. Everything is red. So what are we talking about here? That's the damage. That's the damage the 19th Amendment does. And we still have a lot of women on our side that will demand it, even though you get nothing for it. You will go on social media, you'll go out in campaigns, you'll get involved trying to push your agenda. But you won't do anything about the main problem of why your agenda keeps getting crushed. That these women who you disagree with are forcing you to live in a society that you don't want to live in. But you want to have that right to vote. That's not logical thinking. That is exactly why you shouldn't vote.
I want you to hold on to this key thought, as the meaning will become clear as this video progresses. When I'm speaking of Western women, I'm talking of women as an organism, or in general. Of course, there's a spectrum and every individual is different. But for the purposes of this video, I'll be speaking of Western women and their general characteristics. I realize that this is a sensitive topic and women with children are different from younger women. But it's the broad strokes of Western women that need to be addressed. If you're a woman watching this and take offense to this video, please understand that I do realize that not all women are the same. But there are some very easily identifiable patterns of behavior that need to.
Like the ones who don't want to see it are never going to see it. There are plenty, and understand, there are plenty of women. There are plenty of conservative women, and it's women on my channel who agree with me, who would happily give up their right to vote so these women lose power because they realize it benefits them. They're actually being hurt by allowing all these women to vote. It doesn't matter about, well, then why not just ban minorities or this stuff? Because it doesn't matter. There's no reason to do it. living in a majority red country, they're going to get redder, those people. They're going to come along to our side. Having women using their girl power, their girl power and their ability to manipulate the simp cucks out there is too damaging.
To be discussed. Also key to understand is that every dramatic change that Western women have brought to society has been allowed by Western men. Western women, or for that matter, any group of women, are not consciously seeking to undermine the foundations of any particular society through calculation or deception or for any underlying agenda.
No, but they're trying to prove the outlier. It's such a female trait. They want to manage and govern to the outlier because everything with these women is competition. Instead of competing on a home front, on a familiar front, for the nicest house, the best raised children, the things that they are that biology has kind of designed them to focus on. Competitive wise, they are now trying to get into the work. They are now in the workforce and all these institutions competing with men, but they don't know how to compete with men because they're always swinging for the fences. They don't want to do the hard work. They're looking for the outlier that disproves, 1,000 years of tradition.
It's just that women have never been the builders of any of the larger edifices of civilization and are not and have never been responsible for maintaining them. This is borne out across every civilization throughout history. So to be clear, I am not assigning any quote-unquote blame on any group or gender in this video. I'm only trying to explain how I see the world that we've all inherited.
Oh, I will. I put the blame right where it's the 19th Amendment. The 19th Amendment was the most, other than 1913 and the start of the Federal Reserve, they go hand in hand. The 19th Amendment has been the most damaging policy, the most damaging law, the most damaging amendment ever to Western society, or at least to American society.
And let's get this out in the open. Women are not very good at being loyal to the tribe. They never have been, they never will be. The reason is it's not in their nature to do so. Women throughout history have shown time and time again they're quick to seek the favors of men they feel are stronger and more dominant.
It's funny they go to Nazi Germany because, I had an incident with, not an incident. I've talked about it. In my free time, I go on a lot of virtual chat programs, Discord. It used to be Pal Talk. It's, because I'm an introvert. I don't like to be out. I don't like to be around people. So, to be social, interact. This is what I use. This is what I go on. And there's this. I never say what I do on these channels. I keep it under my hat because it always causes problems. But I usually get recognized after a while. And on this one spot where the owner was a friend of mine and a female. Okay, there was this typical liberal. Your typical useless idiot liberal dude, freaking out, calling me a fascist, calling me a Nazi, and on and on and on. I'm like, what makes me? And I did the typical, define fascism. I'm not going to define. He couldn't do it. I'm like, what is it about what I'm saying that makes me a fascist? What makes me a fascist? So like, you don't think women should vote? I'm like, oh, so because I don't think women should vote, that makes me a fascist, huh? Like, here's a fun game for everybody to play in the room. Go to the Google machine and ask it, could women vote in Nazi Germany? And see what it tells you. Oh, women could vote. Not only could women vote, they were instrumental in getting Hitler elected. Without women, Hitler would never have been elected in 1933. So that's what makes me a fascist. The thing that makes me a fascist is not wanting the gender that put Hitler over the top to vote. Just stunned. Like, what? This is the mentality. They don't even understand history. For all this screaming about Nazism and fascism and Hitler and this and whatever they call you, go do it yourselves, boys and girls. Go see if women could vote in Nazi Germany or in any fascist society. You can't have fascism. You couldn't have the rise of Hitler without women voting.
Whether they're part of their in-group or not. Recent examples of this, besides Japanese or Vietnamese war brides, come from Europe and are illustrated by the countless numbers of Belgian, French, Dutch, what have you, women that took up relations with occupying German military personnel. And this was only a short time ago, but when Nazis were defeated and social stability was restored, they were punished for their betrayal and transgressions against their people. Now, not only are women not...
If you ever watch Band of Brothers, one of the famous scenes was when the 101st Airborne went into Holland and they were greeted as liberators. Everybody's dancing in the street. And then the resistance started grabbing women out of the crowd who were collaborators, who were sleeping with the Nazis. And they were shaving their heads. And they were shaving their heads to mark them because it was so damaging. And when Winters, I think he was still Lieutenant Winters at the time, but he was in charge of the 101st. Like, what's this all about? He's like, collaborators. He's like, they're getting off easy. The men just are getting shot.
Punished for inviting alien and unassimilatable armies of men into the West, they then vote for parties that force the entire society to have its national wealth redistributed to this army of aggressive and hostile men. And women who are in positions of power even openly celebrate the destruction that they bring upon their people and openly taunt those that seek to retain their culture and civilization from obliteration.
Other than Thatcher, name me the female politician that did anything to preserve the conservative movement. I'll give you Thatcher. But for every Thatcher, there's 100,000 of these. But everybody's just waiting for the next, hoping for the next Thatcher. Every woman is going to be the next Thatcher. This is going to be the one. It's not. They're not.
As in the following video of German politician Dr. Steffi von Berg in Hamburg.
Frau Präsidentin, meine Damen und Herren! Unsere Gesellschaft wird sich ändern. Unsere Stadt wird sich radikal verändern. Ich bin der Auffassung, dass wir in 20, 30 Jahren gar keine ethnischen Mehrheiten mehr haben in unserer Stadt. Das ist das, was wir haben werden in der Zukunft. Und ich sage Ihnen noch ganz deutlich, gerade hier in Richtung rechts, das ist gut so.
It's a competition. It's about shoving it in men's faces. They can't help themselves. Because they realize if they have to argue these issues rationally and logically with facts, they fall apart. This is why they're always looking for some outlier to hang their hat on that they think just invalidates, 1,000 other arguments to the contrary. And it doesn't.
And as our societies become ever more dangerous because of people like Ms. von Berg, and even though women can take steps to protect themselves, the primary responsibility for protection will probably always belong to men.
Right.
This is very important.
This is why I say this goes on for as long as men allow it to. Because when a men just say enough, we're not dealing with this anymore, we're not doing this anymore, what can women do about it? Are they going to build their own roads, their own bridges, their own infrastructure, their own sewers, their own water system? They're going to start designing and building cars, designing and building technology, distributing it. What do? They're helpless without men. Completely helpless.
Important. Women will thus only have as much freedom as their men are willing or capable
Thank you.
of guaranteeing them.
Thank you.
So the question begs, why do women do this? Why do women betray their in-group? And how is the current situation different from those that preceded it? Well, in a word, enfranchisement. Women have been given the vote, and in a democratic society, they vote their biological imperative. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, recent genetic research has shown that before the modern era, 80% of women managed to reproduce while only 40% of men did. The obvious conclusion from this is that a few top men had access to multiple women while the bottom 60% of men had no mating prospects at all. Women clearly didn't mind sharing the top man with a dozen other women, ultimately deciding that being one of many women sharing a man who leads was still more preferable than having the undivided attention of a man who serves.
They want the
Commenting
chat.
on this, Roy Baumeister, a prominent social psychologist who teaches at Florida State University, had this to say. It would be shocking if these vastly different reproductive odds for men and women failed to produce some personality differences. He went on, for women, the optimal thing to do is to go along with the crowd, be nice, play it safe. The odds are good that a man will come along and offer sex and you'll be able to have babies. All that matters is choosing the best offer. We're descended from women who played it safe. For men, the outlook was radically different. If you go along with the crowd and play it safe, the odds are you won't have children. Most men who ever lived did not have any descendants who are alive today. Their lines were dead ends. Hence, it was necessary to take chances, try new things, be creative, explore other possibilities. Many societies, including the West, long ago devised a simple plan to stop the inherent infighting that occurs because a large majority of men in the in-group don't have sexual access to women or the ability to reproduce legitimate children. The entire basis of Western society was the male agreement to keep only one woman in public, so that every male has near equal chance at reproduction. It's for this reason that organized and advanced civilizations have always needed to agree on the equitable distribution of women so as to incentivize its men to produce and have a stake in the society's health and security. But this, like other
But men now are learning to live without women because they have become too destructive. And that needs to happen for a while until women figure out that this life doesn't make them happy, has stolen what they've really wanted their entire lives away from them because they've been lied to.
cultural arrangements that held the West together for centuries is breaking down, and can be observed in something as basic as the fact there are no Western countries that are even at replacement levels in their birth rates. This again can be laid at the feet of loosening of sexual morality and the dating habits of young women. Colloquially called the 80-20 rule, what it basically means is that the vast majority, the 80%, are sexually pursuing the top 20% of men. This is highly damaging to the formation of monogamous couples and the successful formation of families, and the children that will be the next generation of any given country. And we'll be talking about this more later in the video, but if you're interested, see Google for more information on this. Also, one thing to understand is that female psychology has always been about adaptation. In our tribal past, if women of conquered tribes didn't submit to their new masters, they faced death along with their husbands, brothers, sons, fathers. Even today, many women seek out aggressive men, whether consciously or not, as it seems that this psychology has been ground into women after countless years of our species' evolution. That means criminals, gangsters, and mass murderers are always going to be more attractive to women than hard-working, honest men. They always have been, they always will be. Think of how many women throw themselves at drug dealers versus, for example, math teachers. Sexual attraction is based on this reality for many women, regardless of whether they admit it or not. And the feminization of men in the West, adhering to the repetitive and decades-long diatribe that vilifies anything and all things masculine, are no longer, for many women, attractive potential mates. Especially for women in their critical prime childhood-bearing years. But I do add, this may and does change for many with age. The culture of the sensitive man, the emotional man, the compassionate man.
They don't respect them. They don't respect them. They say that's what they want, but it isn't what they want. They always want the alpha Chad.
Is at odds with what women are biologically predisposed to desire. Young women, if they tell you the truth, are drawn to the scoundrel, not the impeccable gentleman with the perfectly manicured fingernails.
Afraid.
You're trembling.
I'm not trembling.
Because I'm a scoundrel. There aren't enough scoundrels in your life.
I happen to like nice men.
Nice man.
Even in space. Even in space.
It's so much a part of women's psyche to want the scoundrel that it's wrapped up in their very DNA. Just to get this...
Because again, it's managing to the outlier. The woman wants to believe she can change him, that he'll change for me, and he won't. They're constantly swinging for the fences instead of doing the hard work.
Out of the way because I have a feeling it might show up in the comments. Yes, I am aware that the vast majority of women, when raped, reach sexual climax or orgasm. However, from all the science that's been done, this is just basically a hardwired response. That if it does have an effect on women and their judgment, it must do so at a very subconscious or primal level. I also know that the number one sexual fantasy disclosed by women over and over again is rape fantasy, forced sex fantasy. But fantasy and reality are two different things.
I've talked about this. A lot of it is our fantasy. It just is. These handmaiden cows that walk around in the outfit, it's rape fantasy. That's exactly what it is.
So I'm not really going to count this as a reason why women are so prone to consciously betray their in-group. The half-century-long experiment of women's liberation and political enfranchisement has ended in disaster for the West. When you begin to start connecting the dots, you realize that since women have been given the vote, the entire center of politics and thus Western society has shifted ever more to the left. Women have also used their political enfranchisement to further the cause of the aptly named women's liberation. Liberation socially, liberation financially, liberation from family, from motherhood, liberation from religious dogma, and most importantly, sexual liberation. Once women were given equal say in the sphere of politics, it was only a matter of time until our civilization was swept up by the event horizon of its own collapse. All kinds of studies have been done on this subject, as this one from Columbia University, and they all, without exception, note that as women become more, quote-unquote, emancipated, the decline of the family is further accelerated. And as the family disintegrates and women move politically further and further to the left in their voting, many then begin to use the government as a surrogate husband and provider. Women are thus even more liberated from their traditional roles within the family and society at large. In one of the most comprehensive studies...
And then you get to 63 years old and you see, like the story I did last week, I'm 63 and feminism ruined my life. I have no man, I have no children, I have nothing.
Studies of civilizational decline, J.D. Unwin postulates in his book, Sex and Culture, written in 1934, that the main driver for the rise of a civilization is the degree of chastity of the said civilization's women. Unwin, a British social anthropologist at Oxford and Cambridge universities.
That's just a derivative of the old African adage, a society will advance no further than the morality of its women. The women are drivers of culture.
Studied 86 different cultures through 5,000 years of history and found a positive correlation between the cultural achievement of a people and the sexual restraint they observed. Unwin's impetus for the project was to test the Freudian theory that civilizational progress was the product of repressed sexuality. He found that discipline in sexual matters appropriated social energy to more civilizational ends. It's very complicated, but for Unwin, the fabric of society was primarily sexual, and heterosexual monogamy was the optimal arrangement for the planning, building, protecting, and nurturing of the family. If enough heterosexual partners made a monogamous commitment, civilizational energy was directed toward promoting the finest societal foundation possible. Without exception, each civilization he studied allowed its success to alter its moral code. According to Unwin, after a nation becomes increasingly liberal with regards to its sexual morality, it loses its cohesion, its impetus, and its purpose. From a chaste moral code, societies gain what he called expansive energy, and this energy allowed these cultures to expand into other weaker cultures. Now, when you compare the modern Western world with the Islamic one, you see exactly the results that Unwin's theory would predict. By allowing women to fuck freely, the West has de facto entered a matriarchy that disincentivizes young men. Islam, on the other hand, keeps their women chaste, and their expansive energy, as Unwin's theory predicts, is manifested in what we're observing today. The Islamic culture is the one who's expanding into the West, and it was only recently that the West was able to dominate all other cultures on the planet. Ultimately, each civilization became less cohesive, less aggressive, and less resolute. Civilizations in this liminal phase then collapsed from either A, an internal anarchy.
And I've said this, Islam is not a male-driven culture. It's a female-driven culture. The women are controlling the men. That woman will gladly wear that burqa so long as that pretty bitch they're jealous of has to wear one too. They'll gladly take the beating so long as that pretty girl that they're jealous of is taking one as well. Whenever you see these Islamic these Islamic purity squads going and pulling women off who don't have their heads covered, who aren't wearing their burqa, okay, the group of men is always being led to the woman by some burqa-wearing woman pointing her out. Take her, it's her. And there they are. There these guys are dutifully, oh yeah, we're controlling our women. No, they're controlling you, dude. They're controlling you.
Anarchic revolution, or B, conquest by invaders with greater social energy. Terrifyingly, Unwin also noted that there was no case in any of the studies he'd made in which a culture managed to restrict the sexual freedom of women once they'd been loosened. A feminist society and future is an oxymoron, as it's unsustainable in the long run. Based just on past history, a civilization that embraces feminist values will cease to exist in a very short time. This is why we've never seen a feminist civilization.
And I will always point this out whenever you see a bunch of women dancing around like degenerates. Always look for the fat and ugly ones, because they're always looking around for approval. Always looking around for approval. Whenever you see it. Now, once I've told you, once you see it, you're not going to be able to unsee it. The fat and ugly ones are always looking at the other girls, at the pretty girls, for approval.
Aside from very short spans at the end of great empires. The signs of decline are already observable. While many countries are sliding into social decline, the canary in the coal mine is the self-described humanitarian superpower that pursues a feminist foreign policy. When looking at Sweden, it's one of the most gender-equal countries on Earth. And while they've become the rape capital of Europe, they're flushing their culture and country down the toilet and pressing forward in their civilizational suicide at an ever-accelerating pace. The total and complete feminization of Sweden and its men have allowed their women to invite their country's own destruction through the importation of millions of unassimilatable and aggressive people from completely alien cultures. Not only are they borrowing money to fund
a culture that's driven by women, and they don't even realize it, because the men are able to act so violently towards women. Oh, this is just a patriarchal society. No, it isn't. Nobody's more violent towards women than other women. No one. They just figured out these women figured out in that culture how to use their men under the guise of, oh no, the men are really in charge. Bullshit. Those Islamic women just realize they need the men to enact their agenda. Western women don't realize that. They think they're actual boss babes that can do it on their own. Islamic women know they need the men in order to enact their agenda. That's why they'll put on the burqa. That's why they'll take a beating. So long as the woman that they hate and they're competing with is wearing one and taking that beating as well.
Colonization of their country, but they are now even creating gender imbalances that will have severe and lasting repercussions on their society's future. And they await their doom with smiles of tolerance and passivity, calm as Hindu cows. Looking again at Unwin's work, he leaves us with a stark dilemma. It may not be possible to save the West. According to his model, this process is irreversible, and the only way to do so would be to restrict the sexual freedom of Western women and move back to a more patriarchal society. And as things stand, this is probably an impossibility. So, instead of having it all, Western women risk losing everything. What are liberal feminists going to do when faced with aggressive gangs of migrants bent on theft and sexual violence?
Nothing.
Burn their bras and throw a pocket edition of Cunt, a Declaration of Independence at them?
Yeah, that's basically all they can do, and that was my point. This lasts as long as men allow it to. And once men decide we're not going to put up with this anymore en masse, there isn't a thing women can do about it. Nothing. You got to form your own army. You got to build your weapons. You got to train your own. You got to train your own army. You got to build your own weapons. You got to build fighter jets and bombers and bombs. And what are you going to do? You're going to start an all-female intelligence service? Boy, that one will stay secret. That'll stay secret for a real long time, won't it?
The violence now being directed toward Western women in their own countries is undeniable proof of the breakdown of the leftist utopian ideals for society. The million migrants that have already arrived and the millions on their way already understand that the West is a toothless civilization ripe for plunder. While Western women might be the ones advocating, whether knowingly or not, for the destruction of the West via misplaced compassion and hyper-emotionalism, it's also the fault of Western men by giving them the choice and allowing their gender's particular predilections to dictate what our civilization's values, priorities, and ultimately what our future should and will be. And maybe Unwin is right. Maybe there is no peaceful way to resolve this crisis of our civilization. Our feminized society hasn't built an equality rainbow that'll usher the West into a nirvana of peace and security based on mutual respect and tolerance. No, it has succeeded in paving the way for the takeover and Islamization of the West. Ironically, it'll be feminine tendencies and policies that rule our society, if not kept in check, that will bring down the more gender-inclusive states of the West and replace them with the tribalism of Africa and the Middle East and the hypermasculinity of Islam. You can have a feminized society, but it won't survive Islam. And here's the crimson red pill of this video. Western men have given Western women freedom of will and choice in their own society. And Western women are now choosing who will take it away from them. If this kind of...
And I made that point because when you try to take God, men are going to go to the one religion where it is allowed, will be Islam. But the problem with Islam is, and a lot of people don't realize it, it is the ultimate feminized, female-driven religion because these Islamic women are manipulating the men into violence, letting them think, oh, they're really in charge. No, you're not, dude. You're not. You're being torqued up by your women, doing their bidding for them, targeting other women, targeting these women's who they view as their competition. This continues for as long as men allow it to. And the good thing is, like I said, history is a good teacher, and we have been in lower points in history in this world. You can only push men so far before they push back hard. And when that happens, it gets evil. That's when it gets really out of control. And there won't be a thing women can do to stop it. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you, Dana, for the contribution and the clip. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, something you want to expose, you'd like to set up a Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with either the Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, and email links in the description box below. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. Also, be sure to subscribe to both my channels on Rumble. If you haven't watched the video over there, please do. Even a click helps. Follow me on TikTok, X, and Telegram as well. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been Societal Narcissism. Take care, everyone.